and welcome. It is time once again for CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana, 104.5 FM. I will be your host for this evening. My name is Mr. Garza, and I'm here to let you know that WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana-Champaign community. Views expressed are those of the speakers and are not intended to represent WRFU, UCIMC, Urbana Socialist Forum, or as we like to say on the televised version of this show, UPTV. These views are our own, and by our in this instance, I mean myself and my charming co-host who will hopefully introduce himself now.
Hi, this is Felipe Menanto. Thank you for inviting me again.
Thank you for coming again. So, good grief. I struggle with this every single time. I just can't do it. So anyway, I can't do it well. That's my point. If I had a modern studio and all the slick contrivances, then it might be different. But as it is, I just have to bumble around.
With the zip ties.
Yeah, zip ties and curtains. And anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome back, I should say. For those who missed out, we had 2 whole episodes of talking to you not that long ago. But this time, hopefully, we're going to talk about an upcoming election. And you are going to tell us what you're running for and hopefully a little bit about why.
Sure. So I'm running for school board in Urbana.
Uh-huh.
I'm running for subdistrict D6.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not running alone. I have a running mate. Her name is Carrie Brown Tess. And she's running for subdistrict 4 also in Urbana. And we are running in a shared platform. The idea is that we want to bring some changes to how the board has been acting over the last few years. And we decided to do this together. So she is challenging the incumbent in her subdistrict, D4, and I'm doing the same in D6 in Urbana. So Urbana is slightly different than Champaign.
Okay.
Urbana has these subdistricts. So it has 7 subdistricts. And each term in each subdistrict goes for 4 years, but they are overlapping. So every 2 years you have either 3 or 4 that are for election.
Uh-huh. So I have to admit, I've never heard of someone running for school board that has a platform. Is that unusual, or is that just something I just never noticed people doing before?
I think that you are into something. It is unusual. Most of the time, at least in Urbana, the seats tends to be they're rarely contested, and they tend to be they're uncontested or simply inherited. So people pass them on. So most of the time, you don't need to bother with having a platform. You just keep coasting, which is what's been happening and why we are running. So Kerry and I, we met in December. I mean, a lot of us we were very concerned about the events that were happening in Urbana, how the current board was acting, their lack of transparency, how we were not really understanding the decisions, and how they were, in my view, they were not really representing the interests of the residents of Urbana. And we wanted to have people to challenge the current members. And at the end, it ended up being Kerry and me who ended up being the runner. So when back in the winter, we decided to create a platform. We focused this on 3 fundamental pillars. The first one is social and racial justice. The second one is transparency. And the third one is accountability.
Okay, so briefly, I'm sure there's a lot more to this than you could probably want to answer in a short time, but briefly, what does the school board do exactly?
So I can tell you what it's doing and what it should be doing. Maybe I should tell what it should be doing.
Yeah, tell me what it should be doing.
So the board is not supposed to be micromanaging the administration or the school decisions. The board is in charge of among many other things, about the budgets, about important decisions in regards to policy, and the board is supposed to be developing and enacting policy. Okay. And then they study, and then they should consult the constituents, and then they should enact policy and guide our city in the best policies and strategies to make the best education and the fairest of the educations for all of our students that we're serving.
How many different schools?
We have probably 6 elementary schools, and then in addition to that, we have 1 middle school and 1 high school.
Oh, okay. So that's thousands of students?
It is thousands of students. In addition, we also are in charge, the Urbana School District, USD 116, is also in charge of the Division of Adult Education.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, yeah, that is thousands of students. And one of the challenges that we're facing is that the demographics of the U.S. are changing, as we discussed it last time. I'm one of them. And also in Urbana, they're being dramatically changing. So the wealth, and most of the wealth in the neighborhoods it's still in predominantly white neighborhoods.
Okay.
So we in Urbana, I know that we like to believe that we're actually very progressive, but Urbana is still, and Champaign-Urbana is the same. It's still they're fairly segregated cities.
Yeah.
And something that we're seeing is some of the struggles is because of the lack of vision of the current board to understand that there are challenges that are coming. So right now, even though most of the wealth it's still in what are mostly traditionally white neighborhoods, the students that we're serving now in the school are, for the first time, they are minority majority. So it's about 30% African American, 35% white, and then about 18% Latino, and a rest of subclassifications. So even though the adult population might not be of that makeup, the students that we're serving are coming from that racial makeup, and that, of course, bring challenges for which the school district, and the board didn't have the vision to prepare us for.
So your feelings is tricky terrain, because I'm sure you want to run a positive campaign and everything, but your feeling about the current board is that they're not doing enough, or just not doing their job at all, or somewhere in between.
So I don't think that we have fundamental. Something funny is that when we started, when we decided to run for school board, I was actually very conflicted because I thought that why should I run? Right? Probably the people in the board are going to represent our interests much better. After all, this is Urbana, right? So I know that the members are going to have probably the same progressive views that we have, and they're going to be trying to address these challenges of the 21st century head on. And so I decided to ask around, and I understood that actually that was not the case, that some fresh approaches were needed. So no, I would not say that the board is not doing its job. I would not call them, I wouldn't put on those words, but I don't think that they're doing, I don't think they're being effective right now.
Okay.
I think that they're fairly dysfunctional. I think that they are reactive rather than being proactive. They have not been in charge of developing and enacting the policies. They are being followers, and because of that, when things have gone wrong or have not according to their plan, they have basically panicked. And that's what we've seen. The problems that we have seen lately about changing the administration and having to pay an extra roughly $300,000 for this, that money that we didn't have and we could be using differently, it is because the changes that they were, in my view, pushed were actually, and the policy was actually pushed by the administration rather than by the board itself. And that tells you that, unfortunately, the board members, they might have similar views to what we have, but they have not demonstrated to have the leadership to guide us now. And that's one of the many reasons why we're running.
Are they out of touch, do you think, or they just don't understand their jobs, or some combination thereof?
I would think it's a combination. So one of the challenges that we're seeing in the U.S. right now is all of these changes in social demographics. I've seen social change in my lifetime that I don't think I could have seen before. I mean, things are changing rapidly. The whole, I think finally we are changing our views with immigration, as we discussed last time.
Yeah.
And we're also mainstream American, white America, has slowly waking up to the dysfunctional and to the white supremacist practices that have segregated and really oppress chunks of our population.
Right.
So we're slowly waking up to those realities that have been there forever. I mean, I think that Ferguson was a catalyst for many people.
Yeah.
Trevor Martin as well. The fact that even though we had Obama and people believe that illusion that we have a post-racial America, it was just an illusion. It was all really, under there. So we're seeing these challenges. We're seeing the slow wake up to challenge these structures. For the current board members and for probably the mainstream view of the board, this is something that we should try to do. It's not something that is the main objective.
Ah, I see.
Right. It's something that let's try to also achieve social justice while we pursue other things, while we improve the buildings. It's not their top priority. It's not at the forefront. It seems to be an afterthought. Yeah. I don't see, and many of our friends and our base, we don't see really a strong commitment to social and racial justice. I don't think they're against it.
No.
But we need more. We need more than agreeing with something. We need fundamental change. We need bold policies. We need to do something about the poverty, also in Champaign County and in Urbana.
Can the school board address that in some way? Is there some way you can affect it?
Well, I think that I would not claim that we could solve the problems, but at least I will claim that we could do something about it and try our hardest. There are solutions. There are voices that we need to hear that we're not hearing. There's certainly lack of engagement with the community. There are many communities that we're not linking well. There are many. I think that there are many resources that are untapped. There are many approaches that we need to try to pursue, like more resources in order to close the disciplinary gap with students of colors and the achievement gap with the students of colors. We need to do that because these are our kids. Yeah. These are not somebody else's kids. These are the kids in our community. This is our village. So if we don't take care of them, who is going to do them? So that should be the first priority.
Right. And you yourself have kids, right?
I do have kids, right? And I love them with all my heart. I hope that they listen. Hola, Nathaniel, Ian. But I have to say that I'm not doing this for my kids. Oh. I'm doing this because I want my kids to have a better community. Yeah. I'm not doing this for my kids' education. I think, there's this in I would say in Western society. Yeah. We have this agreed upon idea that you are considered a good parent if you try to get the best for your kids, the best for your children. Right. The problem with the premise is that if you're getting the best to your kids, somebody's getting somebody that is not the best product, a lesser product. You see, and we are all in this, in this rapid race to get the best for them. And when we're doing this, we're failing others. So I have the radical idea that maybe as parents, instead of focusing so much in the wellness of our own kids, the metric of a good parent should be making sure that all kids do well. And I think that's the mission of public education.
I agree with that, and I really like that a lot. One of the unaddressed aspects of this notion of individuality that is so common in this country particularly, but West generally, as you say, is this idea of you're working for yourself. And it's, in a sense, it's connected with capitalism. Yeah. We won't go there because
well, we could go there, but yeah, I know exactly right.
I mean, that's tricky terrain for the average listener who's like, what? Wait, what's wrong with capitalism? What are you, a communist? That the point isn't that. It's that it's tied in with this notion of people work best when they're working for themselves or their own self-interest. And so the concept seems to be everybody can advance if we're all looking out for ourselves. But as you point out, when someone has the best, that means someone has second best and third best. If you're divided up like that, then it's apportioned depending on luck, circumstance,
Privilege.
head start, privilege, all sorts of different things that go into where you end up. Where you start out has a lot to do with where you end up. If I start here, I'm going to end up there a lot sooner than you if you're starting back here. So I like that notion that your job is to look out for all the kids, not just your kids. Like if you said, I'm doing this because I want my kids to have the best education possible, it's sort of the other kids are kind of an afterthought, really,
Exactly.
to that. And I guess that's what you're saying, right, is that I'm consciously deciding that I'm doing this for the community, not for my kids.
Exactly, right. And I want to, so there are 2 points that I wanted to address. One is that when you're saying that about capitalism, that is, or the notion that we only improve or really reach success when we do something for ourselves,
Right.
for our own
We
interests.
give our best when it's personal.
For us, right? But if we, and I think that is largely correct, but you can flip it a little bit and say, what if my happiness is actually the welfare of my community?
Yeah.
And then you're still doing it for yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, even our good actions, we do them for ourselves. We do them because of the joy that it brings us.
Yeah.
So if we flip that, and instead of it's the pursuit of things or of wealth, becomes the pursuit of wellness in our communities, then I think, that's community, and that's where probably the word communism comes from community as well. So.
Yeah. There's a big difference. I'll say this for the listener, just so any casual listener who's driving by going, all right, what are they talking about? There's a big difference between the ideal of something like, say, capitalism or communism or socialism and the practice that ends up being put in place by this country or that country. It's a huge difference. So don't be confused by these words and think that we're saying, oh, well, Russia was a lot smarter than the U.S. because they were doing, we're not saying that at all. Russia was never any more communist than China was or is now.
And if you think about it, our families are communities.
Yeah.
You all work for ourselves. We all try to help each other in our families, and that's kind of like, and that's why families are so important for us humans. That's how we protect it ourselves. So the other point that I wanted to make was about this idea of trying to get the best, and instead of actually getting the best, try to do the best for all kids. It's not something that only board members should do.
Right.
I think this is how parents, all of us as parents, should be the metric for being trying to get the best. Because these kids, the kids that are now getting the best, it's not that these are our kids. They're part of our community.
Yeah.
We need to kind of like understand that. I mean, at the end, the whole planet is our own community, but we can make this in subsections, and it's still here.
Yeah, I like that. I don't want to distract you too far though from your message, because this is we're getting all philosophical about it. So,
it's fine. It's fun.
As far as running a campaign goes, how do you do that for something like school board? I mean, do people pay attention? Are you finding that people are like, yeah, I'm really concerned about the situation, and I want to hear what you have to say, or how are they reacting to you?
Well, I think that for the first time in maybe 20 years, people are paying attention in Urbana to this election. And that is because Kerry and I, we're running as a bloc. And our coalition is called Partnership for Change.
Yeah.
And we are, our idea is that if things work out and if we both get elected, we will both be in the board, and we will have the same. We will not be alone. We have more momentum. We will have the critical mass to push the changes that are needed. You don't want to have just one progressive voice that then gets ostracized, as it happened in the past.
Yeah.
So how do you? Yes, and people are paying attention. I would say that that is the best outcome of the campaign. The fact that when we started, it was actually very silent. People didn't even know there was election in April. Most of my friends, me included, we didn't know who our representatives, the members for our sub-districts, because our board has been really working in silence, and it has been working pretty much like a private entity not being very transparent.
Yeah.
And when things go fine, and you don't care, right? Things are going well. But that has not been the case because of the changes that we've been trying to do in discipline that end up causing disruption in the school. So we now have a conversation. Now it's wonderful that if you drive around Urbana, you see yard signs everywhere. When we started, we developed this platform early in January, but we didn't know what the position of the incumbents was because they never have to have a position.
Yeah, so just I'm running for school board.
They didn't have to. They were running unopposed, so there was only one candidate.
Ah, okay.
So that's usually how it happens. And then the good thing is that eventually they did put a platform, and we are actually very, very happy to see that it's not different from ours. It's only there's a shuffling. It's not that social and racial justice are not their main goals. It's something that they want to do while they're actually doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to see that we don't have fundamental problems in terms of ideology. Now, Kerry and I really prompt them to do this, and I'm happy that this is happening. This is how democracy should work. I mean, it's kind of sad that it take us for us to do all of this work for the incumbents to decide to tell us what they stand for, and that actually it's interesting that then they also decide to run together.
Oh, they're running as a block as well? Oh, interesting.
So this is, I mean, it's amazing. All of this energy that suddenly is happening in Urbana, the signs, their forums. There's going to be actually a forum on Thursday. Organized by WUNA, the West Urbana Neighborhood Association.
Thursday, let's see. Today is, when we're recording this Monday, March 25th.
Thursday the 28th. It's going to be at 7 p.m. at the church on Green Street. I think it's a Unitarian church.
Unitarian church, yeah.
The one on Green. And of course, it's open to the community. And there's going to be a forum where all 4 candidates for these seats, we're going to be present. We're going to answer questions and have opening remarks. And this is wonderful. This is the kind of stuff that usually never happens in Urbana. Some similar energy is also happening in Champaign, where you have 3 candidates, 3 very progressive candidates who are running also as a coalition, and they are trying to push similar agendas.
Yeah, I will admit, for the sake of transparency, since we're talking about transparency, that I've had a lot of dealings with the Champaign School Board because my day job is I work in preservation, and they have recently done a great deal of damage to the historical fabric of the community through their efforts to expand the schools around Champaign. So I've had a lot of interaction. I've gone to lots of school board meetings and seen how they operate and everything, and I can get a sense from that experience what you're talking about in terms of like transparency, because they are completely opaque about things that they would rather not talk about. Correct. And very transparent about things that they do, so they can say, oh, we're talking about all of this stuff, and they just kind of sneak in the other things kind of behind. So that's very easy, because it's honestly, it's difficult as just a community member to go sit at one of those meetings and have any idea what they're talking about. Because, they take up this from the last meeting, we discussed this, and now we're going to just talk about this again for 5 minutes and then go on. And you're like, I don't know what that was. I wasn't here, and it just kind of goes over your head. So in terms of transparency, I guess what I'm getting around to is, how do you make your meetings, your deliberations, your everything more transparent to a community that, honestly, we have to be fair, is only going to be paying attention occasionally?
Right.
How do you keep them involved, or get them involved and then keep them involved, I guess is my question.
So part of the transparency is illuminate the public in how the decision making is happening.
Okay.
So most of the decisions on the board, they just happen, and they simply vote, and then dismissals, decision on where they're going to put a new center, it's done without any discussion. And they have this agreed upon rule that they shouldn't be any. They try to avoid dissent, and they try to work as one body. And I like the idea. I like the idea of have a single voice that gives you strength, so there's no fractures or fissures. But I think it's a disfavor to democracy. Board members and that's something that we're challenging and we pledge to do. We will openly dissent of decisions that we don't want to follow. And we will also be open to discuss publicly the decisions, just how you develop policy. You don't develop policy in a vacuum. You consult. You form small committees with experts and people respected in the community who have voices, and you try to bring all of those voices together, and there's an open discussion, and then after that hopefully you reach some kind of consensus, and then you can develop a policy. The decisions, so that's the lack of transparency. The decisions simply happen. You don't know who motivated that decision, who was the person, but then you see that the votes are 7-0.
Do they get together in private and talk it out and then just go and meet and vote on it in the meeting, or how does that?
So there are open meetings and there are also closed meetings. What happens in the open meetings is that there's actually very little discussion. They simply vote and they agree, and it seems to me that they decide to agree on this beforehand.
Must be. They don't just all come in and go, oh yeah, I am with him.
Exactly. And then the other problem is that there's no good space for the community to express themselves and consult and raise their concerns.
Yeah.
So there's I guess it's the same in Champaign. There's a period of open comment where you can have 5 minutes. But it's simply 5 minutes and there's no reply, and it's like a marathon.
Yeah, I've done that. They just sit there and look at you and say thank you, and then they talk about something else, and you're like, oh.
So that is not a good model. I'm not saying that we should get rid of that, but we should have other avenues where board members can engage with their community, and that's something that we're sorely lacking.
Yeah.
So something that I pledge to do is that I will have coffee hours or office hours, and once a month I will sit in a coffee for hours with my laptop in case anybody wants to drop by, and they can talk to me, and they can do one-to-one, and that can be that then they feel more confident to express their opinions, and that will be a good idea. And in addition to all of the more formal, open committees that they will have, from where we can get input about the concerns from the community, rather than this marathon 5 minutes that go for hours.
Well, we're approaching the end of the first half hour here, so I want to make sure we get this. Your candidate forum is when again?
It's this Thursday, March 28th at 7 p.m. At the Unitarian Church on Green Street in Urbana.
That will be before we air on TV, but after we're on the air live right now, and I will make sure to get this up on YouTube at least before then, so at least somebody can see that. But unfortunately, probably most of our viewers are with UPTV, and they'll miss that. But when is the election itself?
Election is April 2nd. That is next Tuesday.
April 2nd, next Tuesday. Okay. And so
it's coming soon.
Your partner's name is what again?
It's Carrie Brown-Tess.
Carrie Brown-Tess.
And she's running for Subdistrict 4 in Urbana.
Subdistrict 4. And does all Urbana vote on all the sub-districts?
No.
I see.
These are chunks of roughly 15 by 15 blocks.
Oh, okay.
So in my sub-district, I have about 4,300 voters.
So at least your campaigning is pretty targeted.
It is pretty targeted, but it's still, it is gigantic.